Hello, all. I wanted to figure out how this privatizing of prisons works. So let's get to it. Is it about rehabilitation or is it about the money? Before founding Core Civics, which is a $1.8 billion industry, Terrell Don Hudos in 1967, he ran a cotton plantation as a warden, and inmates were to pick cotton sunrise to sundown, and if they didn't meet their quota, other inmates were instructed to whip them. It was then that two businessmen said, "Golly, Terrell Houdon, you're doing such an amazing job with these inmates. Let's make the prisons a corporation and sell shares on the stock market. Let's make our bank accounts fancy, shall we?" And that's what they did. The first corporate-run owned prison happened before then, which was 1844. 9 years later, in a Louisiana penitentiary, 9 years after it opened, it became privatized. They had inmates working in steel mills, textile mills, coal mining, laying the foundations for railroads. But they used torture measures to maximize the output of the workers. And those measures include watering down, where they poured water down the inmate's throat, and that put pressure in their heart, and it made the inmate feel as though they were dying. And then there was, quote, stringing up, where they strung a rope on the inmate's thumb, they flung him onto a branch, and they suspended him in the air for hours. Let's go now to 1871, where there was a fine man by the name of Thomas O'Connor, who also was a leasee of the land and a warden. He went to what I would like to call the lowest of the low measures. He squeezed out the inmates as much as he can, but he did it like, I want to say, how low did he go? And you're probably saying, how did he do it? Well, he forced the inmates to urinate so he could sell that urine to tanneries, where they used it to soften animal skin, as well as it made it easier for them to take out the hair and the flesh. And then when the inmates died, he sold their bodies to medical schools where they were studied on to get cha-ching, cha-ching, Benjamins. It's not about rehabilitation. It wasn't about that. It was about profiting at any expense, even if it was immoral and criminal, unethical. It was about the dollar. The greed got to their head. Let's fast forward to 1987, where Joe Biden was the chairman of the Judicial Committee. His aim or mission between the 80s and the 90s was to put stricter laws in place for inmates. Stricter sentencing, for example, and he did that. He drafted the Violent Crimes Act of 1994, which was then signed by then President Clinton, and that allocated $8.7 billion for corporations to build more corporate-owned prisons. In the 2014, a journalist by the name of Shane Bauer, he wanted to go undercover and see what's going on in Core Civic's prisons. So he applied as a guard, and he was told that he will be paid $9 an hour, unarmed, only with a dispatch. And and then they were told that if you see anybody fighting, do not intervene. Your job is to say, quote, "Stop fighting," because that releases you from liability, and it also protects the company from liability and avoiding any potential costly harm to themselves, the guards. And he said, the instructor told them, "Our job, after all, was, quote, to deliver value to our shareholders." It's not about being humane. If them fools want to cut each other, then happy cutting. These people were anything less than human in these eyes of these corporate giants, criminals, who will get justice. In 2000, Shane Bauer also said that he reported that one inmate in particular lost his legs due to gangrene. And he asked him what happened, and the inmate said that he was asking for medical care for months, and they refused it, so he lost his legs essentially. And in 2014, the Corrections Corporation of America in 2014 said this: any changes with respect to drugs and controlled substances or illegal immigration could affect the number of persons arrested, convicted, and sentenced, thereby potentially reducing demand for correctional facilities to house them, reducing their Benjamins. And they didn't want that. Now President Trump wants to do prison reform. He wants to give these inmates a new life. He wants them to be able to integrate into society.